Alrighty, got a new kingdom and a new laptop. Unfortunately, it did not get set up in time for me to do yesterday's daily, so I'll have to complete that one after I finished today's. What's happening here? We got Bandit Fort, Banquet, and Enlightenment for the landscapes. And in this kingdom, Enlightenment is triggered by Rustic Village. So once Rustic Village is played 5 times in total between both players, then Enlightenment will be active for the rest of the game. What else is happening? For draw, we've got Litter, Enchantress, Advisor, and the Farrier Overpay. Footpad itself isn't draw, but it has this bottom text, which is just a global effect in games where it's present. Always worth considering which cards that affects. This kingdom is not helping demonstrate my point. I'm actually not sure there's anything that triggers Footpad here. Yeah, no. Okay, so technically, Footpad could be relevant if your opponent plays a Snake Witch and gives you a curse. That would trigger an action phase and draw you a card. So Footpad makes Snake Witch ever so slightly weaker. It is frequently the case that this bottom text is very game warping, like in a kingdom with Groom or something. But this kingdom is actually atypically underwhelming for Footpad. Anyways, actions, we got Litter and Rustic Village. Trashing, there's no way to trash your cards. Well, once you played Rustic Village enough, your coppers would all become cantrips, which is kind of like trashing them. There's no way to deal with estates or curses that you might gain. So trashing is limited. Plus buy, we got Rice, Merchant Guild, Farrier. The bottom half of the Gladiator pile is Fortunes, which come with plus buy. Weird kingdom. First thing jumping out to me is Merchant Guild plus Rustic Village plus Farrier. With Merchant Guild, you play a few of those, you buy a bunch of coppers, you're generating a very large number of coffers. The downside is you're adding coppers to your deck. But Rustic Village lets you play multiple Merchant Guilds, but it also triggers a prophecy that says it doesn't matter how many coppers you have in your deck. So those two together could be a thing, and then if you're generating lots of coppers, you just put that into Farrier Overpays and draw your deck that way. That actually gets kind of shut down by Footpad, though. Farrier puts your deck into your hand at the end of your turn, and then if they play Footpad on their turn, that you could discard like 25 cards. That would be unpleasant. So probably you need to get a Footpad in your deck relatively early, just as a threat to stop your opponent from utilizing the Farrier effect. You're going to be pretty reticent to click Farrier when your opponent is potentially hitting you for a discard 90% of your hand effect. A lot of the stuff could be relevant. You could draw the other ways. Litter, Enchantress, and Advisor all seem okay. Advisor will be a lot better once Enlightenment is active, because then pitching your actions and leaving you with your coppers isn't such a downside. Advisor is probably a week before that. Rice is probably just weaker than Merchant Guild, I think, as far as payload and plus buy go. But it doesn't seem bad here. Enchantress, just on its own, gets up to 4. Action, duration, attack, treasure, and then you could make it worth 5 with Rustic Village. Like, it would not be hard to make Rice worth 5. I think it's worse than Merchant Guild, but I don't think it's bad. But like if you're doing one of those, you should probably just do the one, because Merchant Guild stacks geometrically, exponentially, whichever one of those words is applicable here, but not linearly. Whereas Rice, like if you mix those two, you'd be getting less value than just committing to Merchant Guild. Banquet seems super relevant to the Rustic Village Merchant Guild deck, but also just like straight up Banquet Merchant Guild I think is a deck on its own. Like just monolithically, you Banquet for some Merchant Guilds, you play Merchant Guild, you click Banquet a few more times, you generate a ton of coffers, and you start buying provinces off of those coffers. Like that deck I think that deck has to be worse than the same thing, but with deck control. But I think it's not bad. Alright, how to open. I remain a bit confused. I think something involving Merchant Guild, Rustic Village, Enlightenment seems correct, but I don't know how to get that going. I think I kind of want Footpad. I'm contemplating Banquet as an opening. Like if I eventually activate Enlightenment, the coppers don't hurt that much. Well, they wouldn't hurt at all from that point onwards. But like, supposing you click Banquet a bunch to get the cards you want, but then you're seeing your Rustic Village once every like few turns, then it takes forever to activate, and you just bog down your deck way too long, and you've fallen too far behind. On the flip side, I'm imagining, like, what if I am more responsible, don't take a bunch of coppers, and try to hit 5 the natural way, when the bot's over there just banqueting for Merchant Guild or whatever, and then I trigger Enlightenment for the both of us, and then they take the rewards of my effort. I'm not sure. What about a double Farrier overpay? I think that's 60% likely to hit 5. I'd have 3 coppers in this hand. I would draw 2 of these 5 cards. Right? So as long as the estate is not in the top 2 of these 5, I would hit 5. Yeah, 60% likely. The downside case isn't great. I would hit 4 again, and I have 3 coppers top decked. Upside is I get to take a Merchant Guild or Footpad immediately. That sounds reasonable. I think Footpad or Farrier into Footpad seems fine. I'm not sure what you do if you miss. Just Farrier again and hope to hit it the next time. You're a little bit more likely to in that case. Actually, no, I think it's just like equally likely, isn't it? Anyways, is there something more reliable? Could just be like Enchantress in a Rustic Village or double Enchantress. I don't love the idea of opening silver. It's negative 2 points, and it's not a card I want long term. But like Enchantress silver would be fine. I guess double Enchantress is pretty good versus the like Banquet for Merchant Guild and Footpad stuff, because that deck is probably going to have just like 1 action card and a bunch of coppers for a while, and then an Enchantress attack is going to hit their only action card. I think I like double Enchantress. It seems decent. Okay, yeah, and I think it does a decent job of countering what the bot just did, which is Banquet for one of the nice 5s. Because if I play Enchantress and they have that in hand, they're not going to be very likely to find a second action card to play. Whereas like the Farrier into Footpad line, maybe you have Farrier plus Footpad in hand and then you just play the Farrier first. Turn 3, I unfortunately hit 3 again. Don't think I want a 3rd Enchantress very much. I guess I'll take a Farrier. Makes me slightly likelier to hit 4 next turn. I would have been very sad if the bot had its Footpad in that hand. Rustic Village now. Okay, interesting. So the bot managed to collide their 2 buys, right? There are 2 games technically. They didn't buy either of those, and my Enchantress unwittingly helped them resolve the terminal collision by cantripping one of them. That's unfortunate. This is even less like usually you're like what, roughly 1/3 likely to collide your 2 opening buys, so you buy 2 terminals. But the bot banqueted for both of those and added 4 extra coppers, so the odds that they were in the same hand was even lower than usual. A little miffed. I tried to trick him, but I played myself. I still haven't hit 5 yet. Also interesting, the bot chose to play the Merchant Guild over the Footpad. It's definitely just doing the Banquet Merchant Guild thing that I described, which is, like I said, I think it's inferior to the other stuff, but like not that inferior. Unfortunately, I could not find my other Enchantress. Do I still need Footpad first? I think the bot's deck is not as focused on Farrier overpay. Like if it draws its deck, it still only plays 1 Merchant Guild. So I think I don't need a Footpad, because the Footpad's to counter the Farrier, and the bot doesn't benefit that much, I think, from the Farrier. So I think I'm going to go straight for the Merchant Guild. Final answer. Alright, bot's got a bunch of coffers. How do I do this? Probably I just play both of them and end up being a little bit sad. Take another ferry overpay. Or I get Banquet for another Merchant Guild. Enlightenment's going to trigger fairly soon. Soon enough that I'm less worried about it than I was in the opening. Please find said other Merchant Guild, pretty please. Nope, no dice. Now I'm a little bit afraid about that footpad attack. This would be a natural turn to click Farrier. But a footpad here would hurt a whole heck of a bunch. I don't think the bot's played a footpad recently, so it might be coming up. I guess I will just Banquet for Merchant Guild. Another Rustic Village. Yep, there's the footpad. And unfortunately, I found not a whole lot of my cards. Alright, this is just going to be one big ferry overpay. I really need to get back around to the Merchant Guilds, because that's kind of what my deck does. And they were 2 of the 3 are going to be in the bottom there. Let's just only play the 1 Enchantress. Alright. So now... Oh man, did I only get 3 of them? The bot has 7 Merchant Guilds already. Goodness me. Kind of wanted more of those. Maybe I will buy Rice as a backup. Just for lack of alternatives. 3 is probably enough to do whatever I need to do, I think. I think it's probably not worth buying Gladiator and trying to get to Fortune would make a fortune. But lowering 5 Gladiators solo is a lot of work. Ooh, you know what's nasty actually? I'm just realizing. I was contemplating a Farrier overpay. Now that Enlightenment's active, Enchantress does not reliably protect me from footpad, because they can just play a copper first, and the copper gets hit by the Enchantress, and then just does the +1 card +1 action anyway, and then they can play their footpad at the end of it. So probably I can't rely on Farrier, and that's fine, because my coppers are all cantrips now, but maybe I need a little bit of draw then to get past, because I need to draw 3 Merchant Guilds and 3 Estates and an Enchantress. That's exactly 7 cards, it's like exactly as much draw as I have. I could get by without additional draw. Maybe I do like Banquet for an Advisor. Advisor gets a lot more pleasant once Enlightenment's active, because they pitch your action cards and leave you with coppers, you just play the coppers. Yeah, I think I'm going to click Banquet a bunch of times. I suppose I can take a footpad now. It is payload of a sort. I should wait for the copper pile, actually. A few more Banquets and coppers will be empty. I don't see the 3rd pile, but, you know, Farrier is low-ish. Where are my advisors? I need to find my advisors. Hello? Ollie Oxenfree. I don't love playing the Rustic Village before the advisors. I would like to play all my advisors and then discard the estates at the end. The problem is, when I play the advisors, I have to draw back around to these things, and then whatever estates I just discarded, I'll have to draw back through a second time. So I'm burning a a bunch of draw here. The consequence of this is basically... Oops, let's not do that quite yet. I have slightly less money than I could have. Also, I'm realizing I did a mistake. I should have taken one more village. I don't have enough villages to play the footpad anyway. I could have had more coppers in hand and I would have made slightly more money. Doesn't look like it should matter. I should win next turn anyway. But yeah. I needed a village there, seems like. Or maybe I needed to not take a footpad. Either way. So it shouldn't matter all too much what I take here, right? Well, I just don't immediately lose the game and I'll have enough money next turn to win. No way the bot gets 5 buys here, I don't think. So I have to worry about an advisor pile out. Going to take me another village. That's not a village. Is that another village? And just some coppers. This has to be a mistake, right? Maybe not. As the bot led with a merchant guild and let it get hit by Way of the Pig. But it occurs to me the bot also has a bunch of merchant guilds and not many villages. So probably what this means is the bot had too many merchant guilds in hand. And so rather than having an extra one sitting around doing nothing, it just played it for +1 card and saved itself a copper. Anyways, just find all the merchant guilds and the farrier. Alright, that is 6 buys. And I have more than enough money. Tricky Kingdom. Yeah, like I think this deck is dangerous. Probably could have been a little bit faster. Maybe the bot had some poor draws there. Also, I guess the Enchantress does shut the bot's deck down fairly well early, especially as player 2. Player 1 has the advantage of being more likely to be able to get an Enchantress in play before you do your stuff. As it turns out, my Enchantress, the first time I played it, all it did was help the bot avoid a terminal collision, but I think the Enchantress counters the flood your deck with coppers strategy fairly well, at least in the early game. Once Enlightenment is played, then Enchantress stops being very effective. But that probably slowed the bot down. Merchant Guild Banquet is a thing, though, and the bot was doing it. I think this is just like the same thing, but a bit better, plus with some ability to counter what they're doing. So I like the engine version of this. There are some non-obvious decisions relating to like Farrier versus Footpad, and it's kind of like a game of rock, paper, scissors here in a lot of ways.